Okay, guys, let's get kicking off, huh? Piki mai, kaki mai, no mai, haere mai. I welcome everyone and declare this meeting of the Wastewater Treatment Plant and Landfill Joint Committee open. Members are reminded that this meeting is being live streamed and to please use your microphones. I will invite members as we incite the karakia. Toru wha, whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki ita, kia mā tātara ki tai. E hi ake ana, te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, Māori ora. Kia ora everyone. There are no apologies, I understand. However, we have Representative Allen and Mayor Baker online and are joining us on Zoom. So there will be, so I'll move that there are no apologies, so we'll just move straight to public forum. Item 3, public forum. We have two individuals who will come to public forum. For the avoidance of doubt, that Michelle and Mari will each have 5 minutes. Will have 5 minutes each. Each speaker will have those 5 minutes, including questions. A bell will be rung at the 4-minute mark. And again at the 5-minute mark, members can ask questions of clarification only and cannot enter into debate with speakers. Speakers should take note of the restrictions in standing orders, including that the topic of the public forum must fall within the terms of reference of the committee. A speaker cannot speak on an issue that they have previously spoken about, and that matters which are subject to separate hearing processes must not be discussed. With that, first one up, Michelle. While they're getting ready, I assume that both Rachel and Mayor Baker will know how to get my attention on the screen should they ask questions, and I'll be assured that somebody else will prod me if I don't pay attention. So thanks.
Firstly, Chair, I'd just like to do a shout out to Jack and Anita for the amazing citizenship award that we attended last night. It was very well run. I think we were terrified of Caroline. She did the best housekeeping speech I've ever heard in my life, but it was a fantastic ceremony. So thank you. Thank you to the council. Kia ora, good afternoon. Mari Wright and I, Michelle, members of Titahi Bay Residents Association, have been attending the Porirua Treatment Plant meetings and landfill meetings for 6 years, and we come and speak on the Wellington reports to councillors, which continue to be a mishmash of conflicting information and obfuscation. Every meeting we have provided evidence-based research, usually Wellington Water's own research, on the serious lack of assessment, management and mismanagement of the treatment plant and pump stations, which has resulted in the increasing contamination of the environment. Porirua Harbour and Titahi Bay bear the brunt of a plant and pumps with a catchment from Johnsonville to Porirua Bay that in wet weather events are unable to fully pump and treat the flow. The harbour is severely polluted and Titahi Bay is heading that way at an alarming rate. Point 8 of the Wellington Water Report, assessment of effects of elevated total ammonia nitrogen concentrations, we'll just call it TAN, of Stantec 30th of January, concludes that the risk of toxicity to the marine receiving environment is low, which is opposite to the technical memorandum conclusion by Lutra of 21st of Jan 25, a report which was given to Wellington Water, it should say water there, a week prior to the Stantec report. And in that, I've highlighted for you, the data trends show a significant increase in TAN concentrations, TAN being total ammonia and nitrogen, and the nitrogen portion of this ratio has significantly increased. Points 29 to 23 mislead the reader saying the plant is performing reasonably. Compare this to the Stantec Clarify investigation of 21. That's a report, OIA responses of 22, previous joint venture meetings and reports from 23 to 25. Veolia incident reports and the Lutra technical memorandum of 25, they're all in Appendix A, I won't read them all out. This shows evidence the treatment plant aeration basin is struggling to process biological pollutants, resulting in higher nitrification. Mixed liquor suspended solids, call them MLSS, average levels have been consistently over the design of 3,500 for years. Sludge tonnage on average has increased threefold in cost to transfer to the landfill, from 20 to 24, 1 million per year to now 3 million plus. And sludge overflows and UV failures have regularly occurred since the new Geron UV was installed in June 2022. When the MLSS average levels are over 3,500, that's the design, secondary treatment is compromised, effluent quality is poor, and poor quality wastewater causes UV issues for the Geron tech system, necessitating regular channel cleaning, all of which coincide with public notifications of discoloured discharges, mechanical failure and power outages. In simple terms, the treatment plant has not and is not compliant for most consent conditions, but particularly non-compliant for effluent and ammonia toxicity of discharge to the receiving environment. Point 27 is a repeat of point 23 from the 25th of Feb joint venture meeting. It says, due to costs being higher than approved in the long-term plan of 24-34, the project has now been changed to the alternate solution, expecting to take a further 2 years. This is despite the urgency to address the sludge carryover non-compliance events. So compare this to the recommendations on page 29 of the Stantec Clarify investigation. I'll put that in there for you in Appendix A. That was of 2021, that report, and that was given to the consent hearing commissioners. Implement short-term measures to increase sludge removal from the site immediately with aim of reducing the target of 3,500. Now it's an alarming 5,300. Fixing the sludge handling process is vital. The cost of $8 million in just 4 years to dump tonnage at landfill is a gross and irresponsible waste of ratepayers' money. Why the continual deferrals? Why did council agree to an $8 million odour project when fixing the sludge handling would resolve the odour? Why was the Rukatani pump station upgrade taken off the 2024 long-term plan when it was approved on the 30th of June 2015? Whitby's Duck Creek pump storage upgrade was also approved, which cost millions and was completed in 2023. Why was this done and fixed first? Thankfully, Councillor Philo organised an amendment to secure funding for the pump station upgrade, but we still wait for this pump station to be upgraded to 4 functioning pumps, as is necessary for the increase of Titahi Bay. And I'd just like to say the perpetual delay on, this is the last, on the perpetual delay on consenting this pump station is unlawful and a good example of the top-tier decision makers who turn a blind eye to increasing sludge tonnage, illegally polluting and throwing away millions, but are quick to increase rates for their preferred projects. And please include this presentation in the minutes. And I have an OIA request as well. I would like to see a copy of the solid stream upgrade. It was part 2 of the Stantec 2021 investigation. I think we did, but I don't think we've ever seen that, but I could be wrong.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you for letting me go over.
Michelle, thank you. We've logged the request and the officers will respond in due course under legislation in regards to that request. There is no more time allocated for you, Michelle, for questions, so I'll move immediately to Mari and allow the time to start. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was disappointed that my prepared presentation was not delivered at the Joint Committee meeting on the 25th of February. I trust that this presentation, prepared with due respect, will now be given the attention it deserves. Recent news regarding Wellington Water has understandably caused concern among our city's ratepayers, raising questions about past transparency and accountability. On the 10th of April, we had a power failure in Titahi Bay of less than 5 minutes. Our new generator should have taken over immediately. We were told it was installed and ready to go at the last meeting, and we have waited many years to get this new generator. I was pleased to see samples were taken at Titahi Bay Beach in front of the surf club at 2:30 on the same day, and the pollution signs turned over to notify the public. The resulting discharge caused by the power failure must have been considerable to have taken samples taken in such prompt action. I would like to thank Veolia for alerting the public. We have had continuous mechanical issues with the Duron UV since its installation and many failures. The leaking streams at the UV are not disinfected. This is because the effluent is poor and poor quality wastewater causes UV issues for the Duron intact system, necessitating regular channel cleaning. This process resulting in non-fully treated discharges into our beautiful bay. I respectfully request the contents of this presentation be recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari. Before I open up the questions for committee members, Mari, as a point of clarification, are you aware that your report from the previous meeting has been incorporated into the minutes for this meeting?
Oh, I saw it just now when you've given it.
And I'm not sure if you were made aware of this, but at the previous meeting, because of you not being present, Councillor Duncan requested that documentation be incorporated into the minutes, which was done. Are you aware of that as well?
No.
Well,
you.
that would be part of the reason why, in the absence of your personal attendance at the public forum, that opportunity was provided through Councillor Duncan to ensure that your word was covered and put into the public record.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay. Any questions for the committee members? Councillor Philo.
Hey, thanks for coming in, Mari and Michelle. Just a really quick question. You brought up the Duron and did you bring up the TAC as well?
Yes.
Well, anyways, the UV, and spoke about the mechanical issues that come up just about in every report. So, is what you're suggesting that it's the mechanical issues are happening because due to the flow that's coming through has solids in it or is dirty, and that's why it is faulting.
Yes.
Yeah, is that what you're? Okay.
Yes.
So, transmissivity of it is not, it's the state of the quality of the wastewater going through.
Well, it is the, excuse me, I've got a bad throat. Michelle, would you answer that question? It is the quality of wastewater that is going through that is causing a lot of the problem. Yes.
Right, okay, thank you for clarifying that.
No other questions? Okay, thank you, Murray, for coming up and speaking in
Sorry
public
about
forum.
my voice.
No, you spoke very well during the presentation as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on from public forum. We're going to move into number 4, conflict of interest. I call for any conflicts of interest that need to be declared. I don't believe there are any. Let us move on to item 5, notification of extraordinary business. There are no items of extraordinary business. Item 6, we're moving through quite quickly here, guys. The confirmation of the minutes. We are asked to confirm the minutes of the joint committee meetings held on the 25th of February 2025. I move that we confirm these minutes as a true and accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Philo, thank you. Do we have any amendments proposed for those minutes? Always looking your direction, Councillor Duncan. Nothing there? Okay, let's go for it. I now put the motion which has been moved. It has been seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions? I believe that is carried. Thank you very much. Item 7, reports. 7.1, Joint Committee Wastewater Treatment Plant Report from the 21st of January to the 31st of March 2025. I will move the motion, being that the Joint Committee received the report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. We will have officer comment, but noting that the items have been on notice, so please you do not need to recite that material. We can take that as read. I will thank you very much for representatives of Wellington Water to come in today, Jeremy, Steve and Blair, to speak to this report, and Oliver, thank you as the staff from Porirua City Council, who's the lead on the report on behalf of the CE. I will ask officers for any additional commentary in relation to this before I go to questions. Olivia?
Kia ora, good afternoon. This is the normal report for the Joint Venture Committee today. As you've already said, the report is relevant for the period 21 January to 31 March. I haven't got anything to add, so I'm happy to hand over to the team at Wellington Water.
Okay. Jeremy?
Thanks, Chair. Since the report was written, I've got a couple of additional points just to raise. So in addition to the details outlined in the report, the committee will be aware that once in April and again last week, there were sludge carryover events which were noted and alarmed out to the community due to the UV transmissivity dropping below the hourly average of 45%. This indicated solids were being carried out, partially treated solids were being carried out from the clarifiers into the effluent stream. These events were as a result of higher than considered normal levels of sludge being held in the process and the high flows through the plant during wet weather and the recent storm. The higher sludge levels were due to constraints with dewatering, solids removal and disposal. The equipment constraints will be largely addressed at the completion of the solids handling upgrade project, which will remove a major constraint, but landfill may continue to be a constraint. There will also be a number of pump station overflows during these recent storm events. We'll provide more details in the next report. Also, as noted in items 12 and 14 on page 16, process changes made to reduce levels of ammonia and nitrogen in the effluent stream created some settleability issues, which also affected dewatering and efficient solids removal. The process changes indicated in the report have successfully reduced the levels of ammonia and nitrogen in the effluent to below the trigger levels now. Veolia and Wellington Water representatives met with Spicer Landfill team to try to address and create options for the removal of solids and to discuss ways in which the Porirua plant could assist in reducing potential odour at the landfill. With point 16, the fault in the Duron UV unit on March the 14th resulted in the manufacturer recommending replacement of a mechanical component of the system. This was completed on the 26th of March and we continue to be monitoring it. As noted in item 21 on page 18, the poor dewaterability of the solids resulted in the percentage dry solids dropping to an average of about 12% in March. This has improved and was 17% dry solids for April. The low dry solids in March did create concerns at Spicer Landfill, but was mutually worked through. The limited ability of the landfill to take additional sludge continues to be a risk to the plant operations, and options to mitigate this risk are being worked on. Point 26, the first monthly newsletter has gone out to interested parties with positive initial feedback received, and the health and safety near miss reported on page 21 resulted in a thorough investigation. Following the investigation, the Veolia finding was that a serious misconduct for a violation of workplace health and safety and safety protocols had occurred, and disciplinary action followed. So they are the main points, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. I'll open up to the committee for questions. Councillor Fiddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Jeremy, for that briefing. Just following up on a couple of things that you just said, and then I've got a few other ones. Thank you. I did get that newsletter. Was good. Yeah. Informative. You mentioned the trigger levels of the ammonia. The levels of the ammonia have dropped under the trigger level. So what are they sitting at now?
Yeah, so the trigger level was 6, and they're sitting under that. So
They're sitting under 6?
Yeah.
That's good.
It is.
Okay. Are you confident that they can be maintained now at that level of 6? Have you kind of found the balance at the plant?
Actually, I might get that over to Steve.
The balance was certainly found over that period of the last month or so. Just need to monitor over the next month to make sure that they're maintained with the cold weather and also the the sludge carryovers from last week, whether they had an impact. So I'm
Of course, right.
not totally sure at this stage.
So
Optimistic, cautiously optimistic.
would those carryovers now mean that rather than having a high MLSS, it's now more of a low MLSS? Is that
Yes.
Yeah.
But there should still be sufficient nitrifying bacteria in the process to maintain ammonia removal. Should be.
There should be.
Yeah.
Have there been any sort of tests done to?
No, not in the last couple of days.
So okay, so this is very new information then about 6. That's okay. No, that's fine.
Can I just clarify something on there? So the level is still higher than what our set point is, but we like to try and reduce the levels gradually. And so major disruptions, we just have to settle down and see. So just to be clear, it's still not at set point, but we're working
So
our way
you
towards
like it to be lower than 6?
lower, but we like to do it gently just to see the flow-on effects to other things like nitrification. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a gradual process that we like to take.
Cool. Thanks for clarifying that. Sorry, I kind of missed what you said about the Veolia investigation, just the last part of your briefing. I didn't quite catch it. Would you mind repeating?
So there was a health and safety incident that the report mentions, and that's been followed up with an investigation by Veolia.
And
That has resulted in a serious misconduct finding from Veolia.
Oh, okay. So it's health and safety and misconduct as well going on.
The misconduct related to health and safety, and that was what was referred to in the report.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'll just go into a few of my other questions from the report now, if that's all right. So on page 15, and I think it's point 10, which goes over to actually page 16. It's the last paragraph where it talks about basically that other Wellington plants or other plants in the Wellington region don't have ammonia as a consent condition. So what I wanted to ask was, let me just bring up my note. Why do you think that it was important for Porirua to have ammonia limits built into their consent? What is the difference there rather than the other Wellington region plants that you mentioned? Just curious to that point that you brought up in the report.
The other outfalls are generally into more open, higher energy coastal environments would be the difference.
Right, so they're not as close to where people swim or...
No, it's not a human health issue. It's more about the amount of mixing and in the coastal area.
Right, so it can be dispersed better, more effectively. Yes. Okay. So bringing up just public health, what are the negative effects of ammonia? So if it's not to do with public health, is it more the ecology side of things, or is it both?
As a scientific report which is attached to this report, which goes into the ecological health as being the main consideration for the ammonia. So yes, it's ecological health at the levels we're talking about.
So what about public health at all, though? Is there any findings or data that it can affect surfers or people swimming near it?
Not that I'm aware of, and not that came up during the resource consent process with where the relevant experts were considering these matters.
Okay. Page 17. So it was just regarding the Giron system. Now, what I wanted to ask, it was brought up before by the public forum. They were just speaking about it. When the solids, the cloudy water particles go through the UV, the UV doesn't properly perform its function. Is that correct? So if it's not clear, if the treated water isn't clear, does the UV not then perform its function?
So we monitor transmissivity, which is the ability for that ultraviolet light to pass through the liquid. And yeah, if the liquid is cloudy, that impedes the ability for that to go through. So the cloudier the water, then the less the UV is effective. So yes.
Does it affect it, as in makes it turn off or anything like that? Does it cause a mechanical fault or?
No, the transmissivity just affects the ability of the UV to do the job, which is to neutralise the bacteria.
Okay, so it's just not as effective in
That's right.
disinfecting the wastewater.
That's right.
So it's just going out, but it's not as free of pathogens. Yeah.
That's right. Low levels of transmissivity means that it won't be as effective.
So when the carryovers happen and it falls below the 45%, is that what triggers to you that there's been a carryover?
That's right. When we, as I said in the preamble there, when it drops below 45%, that will raise an alarm. The operators will go out and check, and it indicates that when we get that the operator needs to go and check to see if there's something going on there. That means when we have a carryover, you don't have that transmissivity. That's what causes the alarm.
Okay, and just to be clear though, it doesn't cause the UV to stop working. It just stops the working of the wastewater being more clean.
The UV continues to operate, but it's less effective.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah. Okay, I've got just a couple more. Page 19, looking at the update for the sludge handling project. So if stage 1 hasn't started yet, can you give some clarity around what the 1.25 million has already been spent on this year? What has gone towards the project, that amount of money?
I can't go into any specifics, but it will have been on the design and investigation process to date.
So it's been on the design so far of stage 1, stage 2, stage 3?
And other investigations, such as drilling boreholes and other type of thing, but I don't have a specific breakdown of it.
In order to give a more full response, can officers please provide a written response after this meeting to clarify that issue? I note that it may not be satisfactory for this instance, but at least we'll get some clarity after the meeting as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Just a reminder that we are briefing council on this very issue next week, I believe, Steve. 2 weeks' time. We are giving you a full brief on this very project.
On the sludge handling.
Yes.
Notwithstanding that, the committee will still require that information that's been requested in this meeting.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you. Page 20, just the next one over. So it was looking at the number 30 regarding the city pump station. And my question was, look, when I looked up the 3rd of January, it only had about 1 millimetre of rainfall that day. It was a really light precipitation. It was more of a drizzle. So what do you think happened there at the pump station? Does it only need just a tiny bit of rain to have like a wet overflow, or just a bit of clarity around that, please?
No, the pump station has a fair bit of capacity. I haven't had the chance to look in advance at that particular event, but we can come back and confirm that the pump station operation was, well, whether the pump station operation was normal.
Right. Okay. Okay, the following page, page 21, I've got 2 points here. The first one is, can you please confirm whether that temporary overflow meter at Rukutane Point is logging the data such as time, duration, and volume of any overflow events? Is that what it's recording?
The temporary overflow meter is only reporting the level in that chamber, and it's got a calibration mark about when the level gets to the overflow level. So it's giving us level information relating to overflow.
How is that different from when we were getting information about when there was a discharge there in previous?
Because it's further back in the actual chamber where the overflow happens. So the pump station is, I can't remember how many metres away, it's tens of metres away, and we were using the level information from the pump station as an indication. This one's much more specific and more accurate directly in the chamber of the overflow.
Is it giving volume at all of how much has gone out?
No.
It's not really clear to me about what a level, what that even means. Yeah, how is that helpful for the situation?
It's helpful that it gives more accurate information of whether an overflow is happening. The nature of the chamber means that it's not practicable to get flow measurement installed in that chamber. So we're getting accurate level information there, and we've also got and we've got the flow information from what's coming out of the pump station.
Because, sorry, so at the City Central, we get volume for that one, don't we?
We do. The chamber, they've had sufficient space to be able to install a V-notch where they can get enough accuracy to provide a volume estimate. Yep.
Okay. Right, but this one you're saying the chamber's too small to capture that info.
Yeah, there's not sufficient height to add a level meter of any accuracy. Yep.
Would it be valuable, and this is probably something that I'd have to request through the chair, for the data that is being collected from that meter to be included in these reports?
It seems like a reasonable request in terms of how to present it will be a challenge, but that said, it's not an unreasonable request in terms of having some of that as part of the commentary.
Certainly, we'll get some graphs together for the next report.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Look, I think this is my last one on this. No check. It's on the same point, on point 33. Can you tell us, I'm just trying to get a sense of progress here with regards to the upgrade, because basically in the February report, you've said similar things to what's been said here. So it's May now, and it doesn't seem like anything's kind of changed in terms of progression. So are you able to give some insight into what's going on with this particular project, and when we're going to see the next bit of progress? This is for Rukutane Point Pump Station upgrade.
Yep. Well, that second pump has gone in, and we saw greater flow capacity on the 21st of April event, where there was no overflow. It got up to just over 170 litres a second achieved, and the new overflow monitor indicated no overflow. Since possibly since this report was prepared, we've had a more detailed pump station pipework configuration options report prepared by consultant team, which has been through an internal Wellington Water review, just looking at the different makes of pipes and the different makes of pumps, and the different options to upgrade pipe work there. So we're still just working through that investigation process of what the preferred option is before it goes into a construction phase.
Jeremy, you mentioned that there was some pump station overflows. Was this pump station one of them?
No, as Steve said, the Rukatani Point, the flow capacity's increased in there, so it was pumping at 170 litres per second, which is quite a reasonable increase, and so there was no overflow during that period.
Oh, so it was the 21st of April was all of the overflows you were referring to?
That's correct.
Yeah.
No, there was a large rain event on the 21st of April, which this pump station did not overflow, but I believe, a number of other pump stations in Porirua did. And then looking at the data from over the late last week, this pump station again did not overflow. But having said that, the rainfall was not as intense in Titahi Bay as it was in the Hutt Valley or northern Wellington.
I note that is outside the reporting period, so I expect that will be covered in the commentary for the subsequent committee's report, correct? Right.
Hey, thank you. I do have some commentary about the Stantec report, but I'm mindful that I was the first to speak, so I'm happy for others to have their questions and for you to come back to me if that's okay.
That seems reasonable. I'll come back to you first when we come to comments. Councillor Duncan, you have questions?
Most of them have been asked, actually. But the first one, item 15, page 17, nitrifying bacteria benchtop trial, how's that going?
It didn't end up taking place, Councillor, because we were seeing results in the ammonia dropping at a rate that we thought was substantial enough not to undertake the trial. It was quite expensive to buy and test, so the decision was made not to undertake it.
Makes sense. Yep. The next one with Spicer Landfill taking a more rigorous approach to screening bins and odour. Is the deodorising spraying working for you there? Is that working for us?
I'll have a crack, Steve. We don't believe it's doing much. I mean, we're aware that there are some odour issues coming from the landfill. We don't believe the profile of what we're delivering to the landfill has changed, but we're conscious that odour is an issue, and so we're doing what we can to assist. And there's been a number of different options sort of discussed. So yeah, it's being sprayed with deodoriser. The screenings in particular are being sprayed with deodoriser before they, as it loads and as they go at the gate.
Yep. Thanks. And your community engagement note, that was brilliant. Good stuff with that. Keep that up, eh? Solids handling upgrade, are we still on target to release documents early this month?
I believe we are, but we'll follow up at the council briefing in a few weeks.
On page 21, item 33, Rukatani, other catchment studies are being scoped to better understand future flows to Rukatani. So which other catchments is that?
Oh, it's probably referring more to that Titahi Bay catchment. There is a relatively high amount of increase in flows in wet weather compared to most other areas around. So it's about getting a balance of how much you upgrade a pump station versus how much you sort of solve the problem back at the source.
Thanks for that. The last one, page 24, odour control there. We had a piece that said odour suppression systems have been installed. When I go back to page 17 and 18, item 19, Wellington Water said to the odour complainants that there was no odour control system. So have we got one or not?
It was a temporary.
There's a temporary system in place.
Yep.
It has proven to be quite problematic. But the odour control project is designed to put a permanent solution in place.
But something is operating at the moment.
Intermittently, yeah, it's caused us some problems to keep it running. Yeah, it's in the stack. Yeah.
Thanks for that. That's me.
Okay. Porirua Kelly.
You look like you've got a list, so maybe I've only got two, so maybe you go first.
No, actually, I think it's even better if you go first, and then there's got plenty of space for me to stretch out.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the report. And I appreciate that you are exploring options, always exploring other options, what you've just referred to. My biggest concern, and the only thing that I really want to talk to you about, is the, what do you call it? The green mass? No, you've got some word in here about the seaweed that seems to be more regularly lying on the beach at Titahi Bay. Not as much in the quantities when we at first started, but it's still there. And so while I understand, and I see the point on page 15.8, where you guys have specifically given an independent opinion, an independent expert has provided an opinion that the variation in the seaweed biomass, that's what you're calling it, on Titahi Bay Beach, as a result of the weather patterns and nothing to do with the ammonia that seems to be exceeding regularly, the effects of it exceeding the marks of where it should be at. But what I want to ask you is, because that nitrogen blowout all the time seems to be the only common denominator of why we're getting this green, the seaweed, and it doesn't even look like seaweed; it's like grass clippings. But what I'm trying to get from you is that, okay, so you got one independent expert opinion. I'd like to ask you, in your expert opinion, are you confident that this ammonia has nothing to do with why this is happening? Because it just seems too big of a coincidence that we get these spikes in the ammonia and then disappears on our beach that's never been there before in this form. So what I'm trying to get from you, and this is essentially from community people who don't believe the report and have asked me to specifically ask you guys this question. So I accept that you have done an independent review and you got an opinion from them. So now I'm asking, in your expert advice, what do you say?
So bearing in mind I've got absolutely no marine biology qualifications.
Neither do I.
But I do have experience with wastewater treatment plants. I can tell you that ammonia is normally targeted with freshwater discharges, so into streams. So our rural ones, like we have in South Wairarapa, for instance, we're very focused on the impacts of ammonia as it has quite serious effects on the ecology. And so that is why it's such a focus in the freshwater systems, but in the marine environment, I don't believe it has any more than very minimal effect on the ecology. I will say that I have seen in my capacity as a recreational diver and fisherman, I have seen large deposits of similar material in Riversdale, for instance, Riversdale Beach, where there is very little impact from metropolitan wastewater. So I don't personally believe that there is any impact from the Porirua Wastewater Treatment Plant. But then again, like I say, I do not have marine biology qualifications, so that's my personal opinion.
Right, thank you. Does any of your colleagues want to add anything? Well, for me, I have none either. But I'm passing on this question, and essentially it's coming from a frustration that this has appeared, and what they're being told is it's weather, and because that is what we're being told, is that it is weather, and I've never seen anything like that. So I mean, you telling me that that's in Riversdale, that's interesting to note, but you have also reported the impacts that it does have on ecology, and that is low, so it still is having that effect in the marine environment. But I don't. Give me an answer that I can go back to the community and an answer that they're going to, you think would be more acceptable.
Look, I mean, I have no qualifications to be able to comment beyond what I just said other than personal observations. So,
would it be outside the scope then to get a second opinion?
Perhaps the better question would be to ask, would there be any reason by anyone who is present here on behalf of Wellington Water to question the validity of the standard tech report, and therefore require a subsequent independent report to reconfirm or confirm new conclusions with regards to it?
I have absolute confidence in the people that have contributed to that report. So I don't see any reason why we'd seek a second opinion.
And you have no problem, Jeremy, and me quoting that?
Yep.
I don't think I could get anything more than that, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Porirua Kelly. I'm going to ask my questions, and then we're going to get to comment. So strap in. Actually, before I get into point 13, I just want to reiterate that comments from other members of the committee with regards to the establishment of a regular e-newsletter to the mailing list. It is not a silver bullet in of itself, but it is an improvement all the same. Continued work and opportunities to communicate is important. The community meetings and this community as well plays its part in being able to provide an opportunity for the public to seek answers. That still is part of the whole plethora of opportunities, and I'd like to hope that our committee will continue to serve in so much that the information that has held over its long history as a source of information to help individuals understand what was going on when decisions were being made. Point 13, with regards to this challenging transition. Am I right in saying that as we get into the wetter months, this is going to be that's going to exacerbate the issue of trying to resolve this transition period?
I don't expect it to be. We changed the dissolved oxygen the plant input areas, and initially it caused upset with that settlability, and the dewatering, and then we adjusted and reduced the rate of change that we were making in there, and we've managed to get that ammonia back down to operating really well. So I don't expect any ongoing issues over winter.
Notwithstanding that they may, are you just so clear here when you describe that? Are you saying that there are outstanding issues above what would be considered, or is it outstanding issues full stop in terms of that transition?
As far as the transition goes, I think I'm not expecting too much change there, but as the plant has no standby equipment for centrifuges and things like that, there is no room for any other component in that dewatering chain to fail. As soon as we have that, then we are in trouble, if you like. And so while the transition itself, I think it looks like it's going to stabilise, and settability will gradually improve, as well as the fact that the mixed liquor has now dropped. But there is always that risk with the lack of any standby equipment, which, as I said, the project, sludge handling project, will address the majority of those problems.
And is there any correlation with regards to these sludge carryovers that lead to discharges, or certainly adverse discharges, with the time of the day. I feel anecdotally that some of these events are happening more frequently in non-daylight hours. Is there a correlation here so far?
No, the plant, no.
Just wanted to be clear about that one. Going to point 17 and regards to the Duron issues, can I just reconfirm that both of those incidents, the mechanical fault and the instrumentation fault, the issue was not, those two issues were not related to any electrical failure, power failure that leads to those machines. It was with the devices themselves.
Yeah, that's correct.
And we still have confidence in these items, generally speaking, considering that they are relatively new and we have had a relatively long list of particular issues in their implementation.
Yeah, look, the Duron unit, the mechanical failures in the Duron unit have been particularly frustrating and perplexing. We've spent a lot of time and effort trying to assess what's going on, and we've engaged the original equipment manufacturer to come in. We've installed additional monitoring equipment to log like torque data on the spindle, and that's what led to the replacement of the spindle after this 14th of March fault. We continue to monitor it. We hope that is what has resolved the issue, but given the history, and yes, you're right, it's a relatively new piece of equipment, it's frustrating, and I can't give you 100% assurance that it's resolved the issue. So far, though, we haven't had that mechanical fault again.
Okay. So, in general, the nature of the faults are changing, but they are being resolved as they come up. Would that be a fair commentary in general?
Pretty much the same fault. These are mechanical items, and they wear over time, and we are monitoring them as closely as we can to avoid any, and maintaining them as we should, and doing what we can to ensure that they run as they should.
Okay, I got one more curly question on this one, then I'll go to my last question. Hope doth part butter no parsnips, to use the expression. So I'm going to give you a tricky question here. At what point, what is the threshold for Wellington Water or Council as asset holder to determine that it is now time to go back to the manufacturer that they have provided a product that is not meeting its expectations? And in the words of Mr. Neil Martin, put it right.
So just to be clear, that the fault that we have been dealing with, it's been ongoing, and we monitored it for a long period of time, put monitoring equipment, and it didn't reoccur until, I think it would have been, I don't know how many months, but it was a very long period of time. Then it popped up again. So the manufacturer has been in and replaced one of the components, a large mechanical component, and so now we're monitoring again. But I mean, we wouldn't, for instance, replace the entire unit. That would be a major undertaking, and during that period we would be without, dual UV treatment. So I mean, this is the best, most pragmatic approach that we can take, and that's, they've replaced this big component now, and we just have to, put it this way, suck it and see. But yeah, we have been through and replaced other components leading up to this component, and we certainly, are monitoring it closely.
Okay, I'm going to move on to my next question. We may have commentary. I'm going to finish my questions, and then could you perhaps take some time to do your best to explain in plain language what a biotrickling filter is?
It's a tower which has a whole lot of plastic media in it, which has organisms, natural organisms grow in it, and those organisms will basically will turn the odour into less harmful air. Is that
renders it inert from that point of view.
Well, effectively, close
Right.
enough.
We'll have more explanations about that as we get the thing installed, I'm sure. Hopefully it goes bing. Porirua Kelly, do you have a question?
Oh, it was just a slight correction, Mr. Chair, from LV Martin. The saying was actually, it's the putting right that counts.
Quite right, and I think a point that we should be mindful in debate. Any other questions before I go back to, Councillor Duncan, and we'll go to Councillor Fiddle for debate.
And it was actually Alan Martin, not Neil.
Quite right. I'm a child of the 90s. That was his son. Thank goodness for all
It's
the
our age
clarifications.
showing now, Councillor Duncan.
Well done, all of you. Yes, you still have a question? Okay, I'll go to question, but then, we'll move quickly onto commentary. Councillor Fiddle.
Yeah, it's just three quick questions that have popped up. So just wondering with regards to the, and this might come up later when we have the sludge handling hearing or briefing, but has there been any kind of case study done to work out once the sludge handling upgrade happens, how the tonnage and the cost, the tonnage will be reduced? Will it be reduced? No. Okay. So we'll still have that $8 million cost to the tip as well.
Yeah, the objective of that project is to provide capacity to keep up with what the amount of sludge that the plant's producing, and also to have, as Jeremy mentioned, that reliability aspect.
Okay.
Having enough spare equipment, if something breaks down, we can just keep up.
Right. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. The second question was around whether the sludge treatment, once the upgrade happens, does that have any effect on odour, as in the odour that's being complained about at the farm?
We don't expect it to have any adverse impact on the odour from the sludge, but I do have the team looking at what contingency options they might be able to do to deal with it. Fundamentally, it's not changing the sludge that's being produced. It's not treating the sludge as such. It's just removing the water from the sludge to make it more efficient to send to landfill. Yeah.
Okay. And then my last one was to Jeremy. You mentioned that in your experience, I think this is what I heard you say, in your experience in the wastewater, you haven't really seen algae situations at marine areas, that it's more freshwater where you've sort of seen it, and that's a focus at the other treatment plants. Did I hear that right?
No, to be clear, the nitrogen treatment is a focus, or ammonia treatment is a focus for our freshwater plants, as it does have an acute impact on freshwater ecology, not such a major impact on seawater.
Okay.
I can possibly add to that. You may be aware that Taumata Arawa have released some proposed national environmental standards for wastewater, where they're categorising different discharge, different receiving environments, like small stream, big stream, open coast, estuary. There's 7 different categories, and they've defined all the relevant parameters for wastewater for those. And so it's interesting in terms of it's a national view of what's normally done. It does have, for estuarine or low coastal energy, it does have some nitrogen removal as part of that proposed standard. Open coast, it has no requirement at all. But then freshwater will have an even tighter requirement, just because of that relative sensitivity.
I mean, so is that because once it goes out to the open, it's just dispersed much more efficiently? It's caught up in the flow of the tides, and it's
I believe that's the main impact. But there's probably a whole science to do with, which is beyond my wastewater treatment.
Yeah. Because, yeah, maybe I'll go into commentary now if that's okay.
We'll have one last question and then to comment with Councillor Filo.
Well,
Kelly.
it's actually a point of clarity when you're talking about that 8 million. So that 8 million that was allocated for odour that's impacting on Porirua Farm, that's pre me being on this committee. So I'm not sure how that got allocated. Maybe it was in your annual plan or something. But anyway, can you just confirm for me, because that spending for the odour, is that more about reducing the smell before it gets to the landfill? Is that what I heard you say?
It's about reducing the smell as it gets beyond the boundary of the site. That 8 million is to do with the air treatment. Yep. So treating the odour through the biotrickling filter.
Yeah.
Before it leaves the treatment plant.
Oh, so it still is about the impact that it has on the residents at Porirua Farm.
Yes, it's about the odour beyond the boundary of the site.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. That is also part of the conditions of our resource consent in terms of the odour discharge, right?
Shame we didn't get that for the landfill, eh?
We'll come back to that one. Commentary, Councillor Filo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I just wanted to talk about this Stantec report. After viewing it, and I've had a look at a few other reports prior to this one that Wellington Waters commissioned. Look, I'm not going to mince my words here, but I think that this report is quite limited in scope, and that it does fail to address some real key issues that are going on. The concern that I have is that it's being used to claim that the plant has no role in the algae problem that the beach is going through. So what I saw from this report was that it's a desktop. It didn't seem like there was any field work that went on. It seemed like he used water sampling, didn't sample the seabed. It was entirely based on info that was supplied by Wellington Water. It didn't seem to include the key events of March and April of 2024 when there were those 13 carryover events that then we saw in May. We started to see that spike in ammonia. So that concerned me that I didn't see any kind of what caused it, any relation to that. Admitted internal issues such as the algae that was at the treatment plant. I saw 3 different incidences in the last report we had where the algae was actually at the treatment plant and it caused a couple of breaches. If you recall, algae was covering the sensor in the UV and it couldn't read it properly. It was I forget the term, erroneous reading. And then there was 2 incidences in December where algae needed, I believe there was they had to stop the UV so that they could clear the buffle plate because algae was clogging it. So if the algae is at the treatment plant and we've got a high ammonia issue, and we know that ammonia is a fertilizer for the algae, it's at the treatment plant and then it's turning up at the beach, we're just getting told, no, it's not. It's nothing to do with the treatment plant, it's the weather, yet no other beaches are having this issue and we're all getting the same weather just about. I know we have our little microclimates, but it's really hard to swallow this. I'll go back to my notes. The term which was brought up by a member of the public, or the quote was interesting, the TAN concentrations increased at the control site after June 2024. This is unlikely to be related to the Porirua wastewater treatment plant discharge. So if it's not the plant, what is it? And what evidence is that claim based on? Because he didn't go into any detail in that report. This feels more like This feels less like an environmental assessment and more like a reassurance document, to be honest with you. We know that high concentrations of ammonia are present. We know ammonia feeds algae. We know algae was physically growing inside the plant, causing consent breaches, and yet this is the report used to inform the media and public messaging that went out to say nothing to do with the plant. I have some questions, but I'll follow up with them.
Councillor Phillip, you have to ask your questions after the meeting. We covered, we exhausted the questions at this point, so we don't comment.
Okay. So I looked up a report that you commissioned, the Cathorn Institute report of 2019. It was used for the resource consent for the treatment plant. Now, this report explicitly warned that nutrients from the Porirua wastewater treatment plant can trigger algae blooms and affect Titahi Bay. So I'll quote, or I'll paraphrase within it, increased nitrogen concentrations from wastewater discharge can simulate growth of algae and biomass, resulting in large increases in biomass. These blooms may smother the seabed, adversely affecting other species, and may dislodge and carried to more sheltered areas, such as Titahi Bay, where they accumulate and decompose, creating ecological effects and nuance for human users. So you've had this report for years. It was commissioned, as I say, as part of your own consent process. Why is it being ignored now? Why did Stantec not reference it? And why are we continuing to deny the obvious?
Councillor Philo, noting that during the debate, there is a time limit in place under Standing Orders 22.2, which is 5 minutes. Okay. You've gone past that 5 minute point there. So I'll let anyone else who wants to take comment now. Probably Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Philo, as well. I wasn't aware of that report, and I would be interested in learning a bit more about it, and even the questions that Councillor Philo has just raised, given that you guys commissioned it in 2019, because this actually talks to the concern that I had and that I'm hearing from the community about their feeling that it has to be more than a coincidence. And so it seems to me that this 2019 report had already identified that heightened nutrient, what's it called? Yeah. Would do exactly what we're now seeing on the beach in Titahi Bay. So through you, Mr. Chair, I would like for that, if we could have a further report to come back, essentially speaking to this report, and it also, I'm just thinking about how I did ask if it was within the scope of this meeting to have a second opinion, and maybe this is it.
So I think, thank you, Porirua Kelly. I think the sentiments as well established, and I think that's reasonable. I think the way to proceed forward is that I know that Councillor Philo will have questions that you'll want to put in subsequent to this meeting, which I think is entirely proper. I think that along with those broader questions that have been raised in the debate by you, Councillor Philo, should be put to Wellington Water as prepared for response at the next committee meeting. That way we can bring it to public attention and answer those concerns, and then the committee may choose to look at what additional measures have to be taken in place to give the community some satisfaction around that area. Does that seem reasonable? Okay, I'm going to just end as chair my comments, and then we'll go to the vote. I want to say this first of all by making clear that this is no reflection on individual staffers or the people on the shovel at Wellington Water. That should always be assured of that. And also, thank you very much for Wellington Water representatives yet again coming in and facing us and the community through us, the community's concerns they have here. I do find it, to use then tack on the analogy about having to suck this terrible situation with regards to the Duron equipment. I do find this hard to swallow, and I think our community finds it hard to swallow. And I do understand that it may be better from a financial perspective to push on in making these improvements or at least repairs and actions whenever there is an issue with the existing plant. But I do wonder whether or not any lessons, whether it's Wellington Water or Veolia, will take with regards to any future hardware procurement to be very mindful of the experiences that we have had with this provider. And I say that with in very diplomatic language. I do not want to be seen as being antagonistic towards the suppliers or any supplier in this context, lest there be a lawsuit for defamation of that sort. In short, buyer beware. So with that, let's go to the vote, which is that the report be accepted. This motion has been moved. It has been seconded. All those in favour say aye. Those against? Abstentions? I believe it is carried. Thank you very much again for coming in. 7.2, Spicer Landfill Committee, Joint Committee Update, January to March 2025. I'll move the motion, being that the Joint Committee receives the report. Do I have a seconder? I'll take Councillor Duncan. You just pipped at the post. We'll have officer comment from David Down. I'm aware, based on the line of questioning that has come from Representative Allen, and thank you for bringing in your questions pre-meeting as well, that there will be answers that will have been incorporated into the report on notice, but not necessarily the commentary. My expectation is that any adjustments or clarifications that are made verbally will be incorporated into the next committee's report, so as to make sure that there continues to be a definitive paper trail for the public to know the answers to the questions that have been raised. So while it's not all in this report, Representative Allen and others, it will be incorporated, and I want to make sure that that is done. David, considering that the items are on notice, do you have any additional comments? Sorry?
Just before you move on, Mr. Chair, is there any chance that you can turn the heating up? It is very cold in this whare.
It is tētahi makariri. I will ask for officers to work on as best as they can on this issue. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we cannot take the heat any higher than it currently is, unfortunately. But I am so grateful that some of us have warm coats. It will be something that will be worked on outside of this meeting, Porirua Kelly. That said, the items are on notice. David, do you have any additional commentary that you want to bring up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Afternoon, councillors. Just since this report was written, I described some options for reinstatement of the tipping trailer service. And I described full reinstatement of the service as being a little bit tricky, whereas EnviroWaste, as our operator, are on site, are handed this health and safety function. Since the report was written, we've discussed with EnviroWaste the possibility of bringing that service back, but with a reasonably simple administration process whereby either the driver or the trailer or both become registered as having been inducted into the correct health and safety procedures when using them, that they would then inform the kiosk, I'm registered, and proceed and to be able to use the tipping trailer. It should be able to be done with a reasonably low level of admin and disruption to the customer. So we're going to further discuss that with EnviroWaste. Tomorrow on site we have EnviroWaste Health and Safety Manager visiting from their office in Auckland, just to run over if we can manage that, and if we can. Obviously, I won't wait till the next committee meeting. I'll make it known publicly as soon as possible.
Appreciate the update on that. Was there anything else you wanted to add there?
That was my only update, Mr Chair. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Porirua Kelly.
Thank you for that, and I'm really pleased to hear that, because the current situation is actually a hazard right now, because you have people that are tipping their trailer, tipping ones, and they're like right up to the back of the trailer, which is a real hazard, a health and safety risk. So it's good to hear that you're looking at doing something. But I'm interested to understand, you're saying that people who have a tipping trailer, that they need to be registered or let the people know, because I thought the whole incident came out of a kaimahi who fell in the pit. It wasn't a public resident. So it seems to be that there's still an onus on the public when it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, the accident that occurred where it was the Enviro Waste worker who fell into the pit was part of a trigger of a review of other incidences, and that's not the only incident we've had at the RTS, and also part of a review of health and safety practices nationally for Enviro Waste. So it was determined that it was difficult to maintain safe practice with the method that was being used. So we're looking at altering the method that's used, so it's all safe.
That makes sense to me, though, because it seems to be one of the biggest gripes is that people that have got a tipping trailer up there and they're having to manually empty their trailer, and then a Porirua City Council truck will come along and they open the gate and they're able to tip it. So what you're saying to me is consistent with what is already happening, and I think that's good practice. And then, as a city, we're covered as well. We don't want any liability claims, do we? So, yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for looking into that. You made me very happy.
Thank you, Porirua Kelly. I've got Representative Allen, then the Mayor, then I'll have Councillor Wheeler.
Kia ora, thank you. Just feels a bit strange. I'm talking to David's back, so I'm sorry, but thank you for the report, David. Just a couple of questions. I know you've clarified some of my questions via email, but on page 38, item 10, you've said the hydrogen sulphide readings reported from the air monitoring station in Tawa are graphed below, but the graph below you have since told me are the 3 sites at the landfill. So is there a graph for the community-based monitor, or what there used to be, I think, in previous reports?
Yeah, that's correct. The graph below is correct, and it is the 3 monitors that are at the landfill. Paragraph 10, as stated in the circulation that I made just a couple of weeks ago, is in error from the previous quarterly report. For that period, the quarter we've just completed, there was a gap in as much as the Tawa monitor had been retired prior to the new monitor being put in place. So we've got a gap in the reading in Tawa itself, but not at the landfill.
Okay, so future reports will include both that monitor and the new monitor at Chesterton Place?
Correct, both of them. So future reports will feature 5 readings from 5 monitors.
Thank you. On page 39, so the graphs on page 39, how are these numbers? Like, there seems to be an increase in complaints, certainly over February and March compared to January. How much is this influenced by the lower percentage of dry solids in the sludge for those months?
Through the Chair, to answer that, I'd need to graph complaints simultaneous with the solids coming in to be able to see if there's a correlation between the two. I will highlight for the committee that there was a single load of sludge which was rejected from the landfill in around February, but difficult to answer until I can do that data correlation between the sludge coming in, the moisture content, and that particular graph.
Before you go on, Representative Allen, I'm just going to ask a point of clarification. There hasn't been any previous work done by officers in regards to the possibility of sludge, and as has been detailed in Representative Allen's question?
Well, certainly, as the committee knows, historically the 2015 odour spike that we had was identified as sludge-based. And out of that, there was a change in the way that sludge is handled, so it's handled quite differently from what it had been back then. With regards to the complaints sludge-based, we do get, we request that a complainant categorises the smell, where one of them is a sewer smell, and that's typically quite a low sort of ratio compared to general refuse or gas. So it's not a major feature necessarily. It hasn't been for a while of those complaint types.
Okay, sorry, carry on, Representative Allen.
Sorry, can I just need to comment on that, David? As I've said at multiple meetings, majority of the people cannot identify the difference between rubbish, sewage, whatever else, and they take the easy option. So to say it's a low feature, I think, could be misleading. It could be that it is sewage they're smelling, but they just don't identify it as such. And I don't think you should take lower complaints with that description as being gospel. I just think that's just maybe missing something that's happening. The other thing I just wanted to comment on is that the graph on the website, the Porirua website, is not up to date. It's only going up to January, I think. And I think at the moment, just the fan that's running. How is that going at the moment? Is it still running? Is it running in the windier weather or?
Through the chair, yeah, the fan's still running. We've altered the running conditions. We just received noise assessment report last week, which will guide us as to how low to run the speed of the motor. We have stopped running the motor in certain weather conditions as indicated by the Omnis environmental system that we have running. That's the one that monitors the hydrogen sulfide, etc. Same system looks at the hyperlocal weather conditions and gives us a 5-day forward graph that suggests you don't need to be running the fan tomorrow. That's assessed every single day. So it's on and off depending on weather conditions, and we are reducing the fan speed to combat that noise problem.
Is it still in one? Is it still being moved around the landfill to different locations, or is it now set in one location?
It's moved around as the weather changes.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Allen. Mayor Baker.
Thank you. Excuse me. Very quick question about the tipping trailer. With them having to have a compliance, there'll be no extra cost added to the client?
No, I wouldn't see the need to add any cost. With commercial operators or people regularly visiting, for example, there's a single induction that says you've been read the rules, stick to them. So it'd be a similar process to that.
Thank you. That was all.
Just before I go on to the next, just to clarify on that one, there would, however, be a bit of a period of introduction and getting this over the line as you start to, and then with an ever-decreasing group of people who go through this process. So I expect that the teams there will be aware that this will take a bit of extra effort at the start, right?
Yes, it will, especially on EnviroWaste's part. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Phelan.
Thanks. It was just to go into more detail about the tipping trailer and so it's good there won't be a cost associated with them registering. Would it be what you just described, quite a light induction when they turn up? So they get inducted that way, and then is there a record kept of them or something like that? What are you thinking?
Our conversation at the moment is that it is a light induction. It's a small part of the site, the RTS, where the tipping trailers go. I'd be inclined not to comment further until tomorrow when we've had that site meeting with the health and safety manager from Enviro to be able to settle how it might work.
Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me is that those people at the front office there get quite a bit of abuse. If they're going to have to ask people to maybe go through an induction, that's not going to help a lot, is it?
The kiosk operator receives a lot of abuse on a regular basis. I'm hoping that someone who has the ability to use their tipping trailer once again is going to turn up grateful and not grumpy.
Fair enough. One other question. On page 47, the 3rd of March, there are high levels of methane coming out of a manhole, but it's actually cut out what the site was. That's a bit dodgy, isn't it, with methane coming out of a manhole there?
Yeah, the manhole it was coming out of is a leachate line, so it's running down from the centre of the big pit out to the leachate at the bottom of the hill. The line does have gas inside it, and the reason it escaped was just some disturbance of that manhole at the time. Normally, it won't be aired or vented. There is some option to be able to suck on that line to pull the gas out proactively, but the instrument that read the measurement was a couple of metres away from the actual manhole itself. The air dispersion is quite significant though.
Representative Allen, I see you up again, so I'll go back to you.
Just one quick question. I know we're talking about a landfill and not a recycling plant, but given what, and I know this is not related to your report necessarily, given what happened at the recycling plant in Auckland with the battery fire, what is the risk level of a fire caused by a battery being disposed of at the landfill?
With respect to the big commercial trucks bringing in residential loads and dropping them in, it's an ever-present risk. When we opened up the current cell we're operating, we also put in a mobile heat sensing camera, which is rigged to a security system to alert. And we've had a number of fires. They take hold, the heat sensors let us know they're there, or there might even be a little bit of smoke. We have had two in my memory that fire has responded to, but both have gone out, which is fortunate. They can do a great deal of damage if they're too deep inside the actual cell. So it's an ever-present risk, but we've got a mobile heat camera to be able to see if that's happening.
So is that still a risk? And you said you've got a camera, some sort of sensor within the new cell being built. For older cells that have now been completed, do you have you said you've got a mobile sensor. That's external, that's not underground, I take it. Is that external above ground?
That's correct. It's a monitor high up on a pole on a wee trailer that gets moved around.
Okay, so there is still a risk under completed cells that there could be batteries that could just, I don't know what they do, get hot and ignite. Is that what you're saying? It's still possible to happen?
It's possible, but with a fresh load, it's the battery being exposed to pressure at the time it's being dumped. So those fires are also fairly regular occurrences in the actual trucks that pick up residential load that might have batteries in them too, for example.
Okay, thank you.
I've got some questions and then we'll go to our commentary debate if anybody wants to. Thank you, David, for coming in and giving us your time. I wanted to just talk about the monthly refuse tonnage data. I noticed that overall there seems to be a slight decline in the tonnages that are coming in over the last few months. Still significantly higher than many years ago, but there's still a decline. Does this give you any sense of certainty that the pressure on landfill of the current cell being filled is less intense than it was maybe even 6 months ago? Or had you already projected that this decline was going to occur, and that does not change the overall pressure on the cell?
when undertaking projections for the like of the long-term plan, we do a number of scenarios. For example, there's a scenario which we produced that looks at the waste management minimisation plan and says, goodness, if we hit those targets, we would really see the demand drop. The pattern which we're seeing here, we believe, is due to a general downturn in the regional economy as opposed to anything else.
Okay, I'm just mindful that there are ongoing consequences to this issue with regards to the amount of solid waste that can be taken from the wastewater treatment plant as a proportion of the overall daily waste, as well as the issues of being able to meet our obligations to maintain operations here with both our current cell and the soon-to-be built next cell as well. Notwithstanding, which is necessarily that those decisions are not necessarily in this committee, further decisions about the future of the landfill. Can I also just then raise a separate question? Are we satisfied that based on the data that we have now with regards to green waste, that the pricing has made an impact on improving usage of green waste based on based on the data here?
Yes, we can. We had an initial uptake, and the volumes have been reasonably steady, which is why when we get to the next item, I'll point out we want to hold it at that rate.
Okay. Any comments or commentary? No? Good. Okay. Well, we will then move on to the vote. I'll now put the motion, being that we've received the report. This motion has been moved. It has been seconded. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? I believe it is carried. Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody else. Let us move to item 7.3, Spicer landfill fees increase. I will move the motion, being that the Joint Committee, 1, received the report, and 2, agreed to the following changes in charges from the 1st of July this year. A, that all charges will go up by 6.6% except for green waste, and B, reduce the rate for weighing an empty vehicle for proof of tear weight from $26.50 to $15. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. David, this item has been on notice. Do you have any additional information you want to carry with regards to this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. Firstly, as pointed out, we've held the green waste where it is to sustain that encouragement to get more green waste coming in. Second thing is just to run the committee through the last few years' worth of increases, just for a comparison to the increase we're bringing this year. In July 22, we put the gate rate up by 17%. The main driver in that was an increase in the aftercare cost provision, and also, excuse me, $10 a tonne further on the waste levy component. July 23, we went up 21%, and that was mostly on the back of a $20 per tonne increase in the waste levy, and last year a 13% increase, which was a $10 increase in the waste levy and a bit more on the aftercare provision. The 6.6% is a little less than what it has been in previous years. We're still seeing increases in the waste levy of $5 per tonne per year. That'll increase for the next couple of years, but apart from that, fairly low. I'll leave that and take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan?
Yeah, just a couple. On the recommended option, page 53 there, item 16. How are we going to backdate it to the 1st of July 2024?
That is an error in the report, Councillor. It will be 2025.
Oh, jolly good. Okay. On page 51, item 2B, why are we looking to reduce the rate for weighing an empty vehicle?
So a vehicle comes in to establish the tear weight, goes across the bridge. It's a fairly simple administrative thing. In the past, that has been subject to the increase along with general weight. There is no reason to do that, so we're not applying that any increase at all there, but reducing it.
Representative Allen.
Thank you. Thanks for the report, David. I just want to ask, look, I'm all in favour that users should pay to cover the increased costs associated with dumping their rubbish. However, looking at the financial report which comes next, we're already at the landfill making a surplus over the budget of approximately $1.8 million. Looking at the last 6 years that I've managed to find, it looks like you've exceeded the budget by $1 million or more. I think one year you made multiple millions more than what was budgeted on income or for the surplus for the year. Would you not say there that the users have already paid for the increase for the next 12 months?
Just a couple of comments back on that, Mr. Chair. The first thing is with regards to the forecast for revenue made each year, and as Representative Allen quite rightly points out, we normally exceed that. The forecasts for each financial year are for timing issues made in advance of us putting up the gate rate for the year ahead. So our financial projection for revenue for next financial year has been made, and now we're putting the price up. So there's a little bit of a synchronisation there that we could forecast a little bit more, but we're behind, or at least we're behind the financial forecast in setting the new gate rate, which will put the revenue up. The second thing is with respect to the aftercare provision, it's a reserve for future costs once we close. So that needs to build.
So even with...
Sorry, Representative Allen, just got here
Sorry.
Mike to just respond as well, and then I'll come back to you.
Maybe David can explain there is an equilibrium, is that the right word, to make sure we don't get out of whack with the market.
Yeah, which is a very good point. On the back page of the report, we've given a comparison with Southern and Silverstream. One of the difficult things is we don't want to be too cheap. We will fill up really quickly if that's the case.
Representative Allen?
Sorry, that sounds a bit like price fixing with the supermarkets, I'm sorry, that we all have to charge the same. With your comment about forecasting, but surely you've still exceeded what you forecasted. So even if you're forecasting for next year, the budget, based on the rates proposed today, even if the rates didn't go up, you're still likely to exceed the budget based on historical, what's happened historically.
Yeah,
So I don't understand that.
The forecast revenue for the next financial year, 25-26, is not based on this price. It's based on the current year price.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Jim. Sorry, Representative.
So perhaps it's just a point of clarification, and David, you can confirm that this is right. The surpluses, which we're referring to here, are being allocated to support, as much as anything, the capital works that are identified in the program of work. And of course, you know, the Cell 3A development is not insignificant in terms of cost. So that's also got to be considered. I mean, that's largely the reason that we're driving the price increases. Isn't that right, David?
Yeah, that's correct. So as we continue to borrow money in order to fund the future development, so for example, a 3A development ongoing right now, which is in the order of about $8 million build, that is coming out of this cost as well.
So just so we're clear here, these, for lack of a better phrase, profits are not truly that, surpluses rather, yes, that's actually quite right. These surpluses are not true in that they do not take into account the impact of CapEx, nor do they take in at this stage the impact of aftercare.
I think the point is that any operating surpluses are reinvested into the waste business.
Yes.
Representative Allen, do you want to carry on with any other line questioning?
Not at this point. I might have a comment to make later.
Understood. David, you want to carry on?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's just in response to something raised by Representative Allen with regards to the charges and the comparison with the other two landfills in the region. Just to be very careful, the Commerce Commission has extremely strict rules over our setting of our price, and it restricts us from any kind of setting relative deliberately to another price. So whether we land at the bottom of the regional price, at the top or in the middle, is actually coincidence. We do have the ability to be able to see Wellington City and Hutt City's proposed price increases before we set ours, but we don't use their prices to do setting here, which is the reason I'm presenting with those cost components, for example, based on inflation or whatever it might be. I just wanted to point out, though, that we don't fix our price comparative to the other landfills.
Okay. Councillor Filo, rather.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, I want to start by acknowledging your amendment last week with regards to distinctively around fly tipping, and that was a strong signal that this is a serious issue for our city, and I completely agree. It's something that we do want to get on top of. What I'm uncomfortable with this recommendation is that the only lever we seem to keep putting up or pulling is putting the prices up. It's like our default. And I get that it's about cost recovery, but we've got to be honest about the impacts. We're seeing more fly tipping. It's all over the community pages. We know enforcement is hard, it takes staff time, and it costs us in other ways. The reality is these things are all connected: pricing, behaviour, and the community trust. We've also got a landfill that returned a surplus. Now, I know you've sort of talked to that, but to keep with the increasing costs, especially during a cost of living crisis, it feels a little out of step with what people are dealing with. So it's not just a financial decision, but it's a social and environmental one too. I think this is the right time to step back and to consider smarter, more community-focused options. I've been looking at what other councils are doing, especially in Australia. Many of them provide residents with 1, 2, or even sometimes 4, depending on which state they are, free vouchers, for want of a better word, included in their rates notice. So it's not a free-for-all, it's targeted, it's limited, and it's practical. So it might be for general waste, it might be for green waste, or even a mixed load. People don't have to use them, but it gives the ability to do the right thing without facing an over $100 bill every time. So I'm not suggesting this for commercial users or people outside of Porirua, but if we're serious about keeping our city clean, then let's make it easier for people to do the right thing, not harder. That's what I'd like officers to explore. Not just vouchers, but any sort of practical tools that could support residents to dispose of waste responsibly without being priced out of doing the right thing. So even if it's a tenant, maybe they could come to the office, like it's per household. I'm not sure. I'm sure those details could be looked at so that it's equitable, not just for homeowners. But as it stands, I'm not comfortable voting for an increase today. We owe it to our community to make this decision with a full picture in front of us, not just a financial spreadsheet, but what it means on the ground. And I understand the timing. We're working towards a budget, a deadline. I don't want to delay this indefinitely. If officers can come back quickly, I'd support bringing it to an extraordinary meeting, or the schedule one. But I don't think it's responsible to vote today without seeing those options first. And to be honest, I don't think there's a strong appetite for this increase around the table or in the community. So with that in mind, Mr. Chair, I move that we lay this item on the table until officers come back with options to support residents and reduce fly tipping, including but not limited to a voucher-based approach, so that council can make informed and balanced decisions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Phil. I'm just going to wait a second, so I'm just going to make sure that everybody's clear because we've got a couple of people on Zoom. Representative Allen, we will get to your question, so just be clear about that. Before we go forward, I need to have a seconder on the laying of the table motion. Who is eligible for that? Is anyone who's not eligible? Sorry? So pointing out that anyone can second that motion. I'm assuming that Porirua Kelly will second the motion, and you'll speak in terms of seconding the motion to lay on the table? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, point of order, sorry, just for clarification, once it's been seconded, don't we go straight to a vote rather
No.
than a discussion?
If there are, as chair, I'm entitled to allow debate on this issue so as to provide clarity for individuals to make an informed vote before they make an amendment.
Through the chair, Mr. Chair, isn't it a procedural motion?
Good point. It is a procedural motion. I'll pull it over here now. 26.1. So it will take precedence over other business, which is right. I accept points of order, rights of reply, quite right. And it must be put to the vote immediately without discussion or debate. Okay, fine, we will do that. It's been moved, it's been seconded. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour of letting the item lie on the table? There's 2. All those opposed? We have a tie. As chair, I have the casting vote. Our votes do not have the item lie on the table. The procedural motion is completed. We'll go back to the substance of the debate. And I have Representative Allen next on the speaking list. Representative Allen.
Thank you. Just a question, David. A minute ago, I'm sorry, I don't know the other gentleman's name who spoke from the officers' table. You said one of the driving factors behind the increase was the construction of Cell 3A. Could you just tell me where in the report it mentions that?
Yeah, through the chair, the construction of Cell 3A, as with all of the borrowings we've made for Cell 2.1 and so on, are all sitting within that lump that is called operating.
Thank you. So an increase of $3.50. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, can you tell me, David, can you confirm for me what I heard you saying, is that in July 2022 there was an increase of 17%, in 2023 there was a 23% increase, in 2024 there was a 13% increase, and what's been suggested now for 2025 is 6.6%.
So almost correct. July 23 was a 21% increase, but otherwise, yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, I think that that's huge, and it doesn't surprise me that there is an increase in fly tipping. In fact, just this week, we have seen up on Facebook a number of people who are putting up posts of people just dumping their rubbish. And I agree with the comments that I've heard so far, that to put up this further, well, it is lower than what's previously been put. I think that it's irresponsible of us to do this right now in the current economic climate, and also regarding this report and the amount of surpluses that have been reported on and identified. And while the officers might be able to say, yes, but that surplus is being redistributed back into what we're doing, it's still a surplus, and you're still asking our residents to continue to pay. And we know that our residents are already grumpy with how high our rates are. So I have to question, why would you even consider doing this, and particularly when there is these surpluses? And well, I get what you're saying, because I mean, we do that in our homes. You know, you might make some money here and you're going to spend it there. It's not just that you made this money in this space and it's going to just stay there. But I think we need to be realistic about what we're proposing here and be responsible, because I just think that this is too much, and I'm not going to vote in favour of any further increases. I think maybe next year let's have a look at things. Interest rates are going down. Maybe the economy is turning. Well, it is, but it's not turning fast enough for me. But I can't see why there needs to be a rate increase in these fees this year. I mean, you already hear out in the community people complaining about what it used to cost to go to the tip for a trailer, and they're saying now it's $60. Others are saying 100. Now we're going over 100. And honestly, Mr. Chair, through you, I think it's really irresponsible for us, and I won't be supporting this.
Thank you, Porirua Kelly. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch. We had the inorganic collections in the old days, and we had to shut that down. Probably when you were a councillor, actually, Councillor Porirua Kelly, because the ratepayers are going to pay for it one way or another. Yeah, sure, give vouchers away to somebody, and somebody else will pay for them for it. How does that work? We can't compare with what it used to cost to go to the tip. We didn't have the ETSs we have to pay now. We're facing huge capping off charges for that tip when we do finally close it, much more than we have in the bank at the moment. This is actually responsible of the council to be doing this, because they need to be ready to cover those costs when they come to us. Otherwise, the ratepayers will be carrying it again. So I'll be voting definitely in favour of these.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Representative Allen?
I'd just like to add, I think part of the issue is it's not so much that you're making a surplus, it's the amount of surplus over what is budgeted to be a surplus. So a couple of years ago, I can't remember what year it was, I think your budget was to make a $3 million surplus, and you made closer to a $9 million surplus. So that's a huge difference. And I think any residents in the city would be saying, well, hold on, you've made this much more than what you budgeted for. So I think you either need to be more accurate in your budgeting, or not keep putting the prices up, because there's nothing wrong with making a surplus. I think it's a difference between what you say you're going to make, or what you think you're going to make, and what you actually do make. So I just think there needs to be better work done around how that's forecasted.
Thank you, Representative Allen.
I know that wasn't a question.
No, it's not. It's comment, and this is the right time for that, Representative Allen. So thank you for that. Do we have anyone else who hasn't spoken who wants to speak to the in comment? Councillor Leggett.
I just to reflect on what Councillor Duncan has said. There is no such thing as a free lunch. I completely agree with this. Surpluses in this area are returned to development for this particular item. And if surpluses, if you want to reduce prices, and I assume, by the way we're talking here, we're only talking about prices for residential, not for the rest of it. Well, you're just talking about residential prices, aren't you? So I think you need to make that clear. But I would be absolutely against waste is a problem. Price is a way of reflecting what the true costs are, and this is what we're doing here. Think about the future in terms of what we need to do if the tip closes early, etc. Development of the new cell. I do not believe for a second that having a zero price increase this year for residential customers would have any effect on fly tipping whatsoever. I hear that as anecdotal, increase in fly tipping. There may be or there may not. But I believe we should continue, just as all the other councils are here or appear to be, continuing to reflect what costs are in our prices. So I would be against trying to do anything other than what is down on here.
I'll allow one more comment, Councillor Phelan. Although I shouldn't really, but I'll allow it. But that'll be the last one, and I'll come to my comment, and then we'll close it.
Sounds good. Hey, look, I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't saying that I wasn't going to what I was saying was there needs to be a solution to the fly tipping, and it wasn't to say no increase whatsoever, but it was saying, okay, if we increase it, what are the other options that we're going to do for the community? Could it be, hey, if there's a couple of vouchers per household, if you wanted to, make your way down to the office and ask for it. That's what I was saying. So if that happened, then I would be happy to vote for that. If there was just broader thinking around that issue, that is clearly an issue in our city. That was, just to be clear, that's what I was saying. It's obvious that's not going to happen now. And I did say I didn't feel comfortable voting for something when it's just all about the dollars and not about the bigger picture. So I'm going to stick to what I said.
Nobody else has got any comment? Okay. Very briefly, Porirua Kelly.
Just briefly, I just wanted to address the comments that have been made twice about a free lunch. I never support a free lunch. And in fact, our kaupapa is that I live by is not a handout, it's a hand up, always. So I get the concept of what we're talking about. I just don't believe that this is the right timing. And I don't believe in that what we've been presented in this report, that it is responsible for us. So I'm not going to change my vote either.
Thank you, Porirua Kelly. I'm going to take the last word, then we're going to go to the vote. First of all, I should be remiss if I didn't thank the officers for bringing forward this item for discussion. Secondly, I think that there has been very robust debate about the merits of this, and I appreciate the feedback that has come forward from Councillor Wheeler, Porirua Kelly, Representative Allen in particular, in regards to the rationale around the equity and financial management issues. I am also thankful for Councillor Duncan and Councillor Leggett for their views around making sure that the needs are being covered by the costs that are incurred. So the prices that are required have been cover the costs incurred. I am reluctant on this one. I'm going to support, primarily because I want certainty for the commercial operators who are going to be utilising the services of the landfill. The vast majority of volume goes through those providers. I am, however, very much of the same sentiment as has been mentioned led by Councillor Wheeler around the equity impacts that this has. Notwithstanding the fact that there has been a significant relative increase in this year compared to previous years, as has been pointed out. And the same has been happened with regards to our rates in general that have been going up for public consultation at the same time. There are other mechanisms for us to debate whether or not we can find ways to reduce the equity issues of waste, including household bin changes so that every ratepayer, residential ratepayer, has some form of ratepayer funded bin for them to collect, so they do not need to rely upon fly tipping as the only solution to the problem. That is a debate that we will have in subsequent full council meetings over time.
Rubbish.
Likewise, we will have, I think there is still space for the debate, and one of the reasons why I think this may need to go to council as opposed to this committee is on the ideas that you have suggested around providing options for residents to be able to access the landfill when they go up there themselves. But that because that requires the ratepayer to cover the balance of it, that's why I would think on this instance it should go back. That's an issue that we can debate as a full council because of the impacts beyond the landfill in terms of the financial impacts. It is, however, a worthy topic of debate, and I want to say thank you for bringing it forward. It does not. That doesn't change the fact that this is a bitter one to swallow, but that is where we are. I'm going to leave it there. Kia ora koutou. This motion has been moved. I now put the motion that we receive the report. This motion has been moved. It has been seconded. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no.
A division, please.
You can have a division, absolutely. So we'll go back and start again. All those in favour? Councillor Duncan, Councillor Hayward. All those opposed? Councillor Wheeler, Porirua Kelly. We have a tie. As casting member, I will vote in favour of the motion. The motion is passed. That said, I'd like us to kind of, have some sort of positive reflection on this space, lest we go into the karakia and the doldrums. I just remind ourselves that I appreciate the tone of debate. I appreciate the robustness of conviction that have been demonstrated in this session. You do our city a service to come here with that in mind. Thank you. I genuinely believe that. Let us finish with our karakia for the closing of this
Oh, no,
meeting.
there's one more item.
Oh, you're right, 7.4.
I was going to say.
Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chair, before
Yes.
you do go on, can
Yes.
I just make the comment that if it had been allowed to lay on the table or to have gone back to full council, then the onus would have been on the full council to make the decision.
True, but the item cannot be transferred to another council. It can only sit in this committee. So there are still issues that would be raised in my commentary at the end before the vote was held.
Thank you.
I appreciate, however, that due to my energy to want to get to the end, we do need to put a motion, do we not, to continue it past the 2-hour point? So I'll put a motion that we moved, that the meeting continued beyond 2 hours, seconded by Councillor Filo. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, the motion is passed. So you've got that one on time, eh? Okay, 7.4, so, yeah, indeed, 2 seconds. 7.4, Wastewater Treatment Plant Spicer Landfill Financial Report. Oh, geez, this is important. October to December 2024. I move the motion, being that the Joint Committee, 1, received the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Filo, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. So I would like to just introduce Peter Anderson, who many of you would not know. She is here as Ian is away. Thank you for coming in, Peter. Please consider the items on notice have been read. Is there any additional commentary that you wish to provide at this stage?
Through the chair. This report is to the end of March, and so I'll just say that throughout April, the financial trends noted in this report have continued, and we're expecting those to continue to the end of the year. I will just draw your attention to page 60. It was noted in the last meeting that you wanted some more details on the contractor services and consultants. So we've provided some extra information there for you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'll have you,
yes.
then we'll go to any questions.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Cool.
just a clarification on that. I think in the preparation of this report, as you can see, the consultants don't really arise and more outsourced partners, but I think that's in the expense line. Consultants will be appearing in the capital charges, of which I expect Wellington Water would use quite significantly, so that hasn't been called out.
Is it possible in subsequent reports that the commentary could make that clearer?
We could do, although it's normal practice for them to do that, because those consultant charges would be specialists, like the Tonkin and Taylors, experts that will be doing design work which is not capable of being done by Wellington Water, so that would be capitalised. We could go down that route, but it probably wouldn't be particularly insightful, I suspect.
Okay, I'm mindful that may be a commentary item that may come back in preparation of future agendas. So it's just, we may not resolve that part of it today. Yep. That said, thank you for pointing that out.
That's right.
Questions? Porirua Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. In the presentation from Wellington Water, they spoke to the 1.8 million that was being spent. And I think it was Jeremy who, no, maybe it was Stephen, that identified that when asked what that cost covered, because we were talking about the delay in getting the station up and running, and he had said it was design and investigation, which to me is consultants. So my question is, that 1.8 million, is that included in this report for the under expenditure for contract services and consultants?
So to answer
Was that in a different one?
Yeah, to answer that question through the chair, that will be in work in progress, so which would be part of a capital charge. So when that project is concluded and gets capitalised, it will appear in the balance sheet.
Just so I'm clear here, though, that obviously it has to be capitalised at some point in this financial year.
So work in progress will be identified through the year, and work in progress will be capitalised as part of the balance sheet wash up at the end of the year. So that will appear in the accounts this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, because you're the financial acting CFO here.
It'll only be capitalised when that project's completed. So not necessarily this year, only if it's completed this year.
Thank you.
But the WIP will be maintained on the balance sheet. Yep.
And will be considered a carryover in that instance, correct? In terms of beyond a financial, if it goes beyond this financial year. Just so I'm clear here.
Yes, it will stay on the balance sheet until that's completed.
Understood. Porirua, Kelly, did you want to carry on?
Oh, no, I'm frustrated. It's probably better if I stay quiet.
Okay. Porirua, Kelly, thank you. Representative Allen.
Thank you. It may be on here, but I can't see it. Can you tell me how much is in the fund, whatever you want to call it, for the future maintenance of the landfill?
Don't worry, they're going to prepare an answer in a moment.
Sorry, through the chair. I could do, but I think I'd like to come back to that later because that's part of the aftercare provisions. I think that's what is being referred to here.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand that this may be part of the conversations that the full council has had and may choose to continue to have.
Yeah.
In a few, in the fullness of time, but it would be, I think, prudent to heed Representative Allen's point around, how best to provide commentary on that through this committee for the purposes of being transparent to the community at large. Is it possible, therefore, to have an answer prepared? I'm not, after the meeting, but before the next meeting, so we can have that incorporated in, please?
We could certainly do that, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge, so to speak, in terms of what is the life of this landfill, and that is a conversation that's not going to be resolved in the near term, Mr. Chair.
So, thanks, Mr. Chair. There is clearly some commercial sensitivity around this point because of the nature of the waste sector. So, with your leave, we would prefer to provide that response to that question with a whole bunch of context around it.
Okay. And I reserve the right for any member of the committee to ask for a briefing, in public excluded, so as to assist members in understanding those issues. But I'm bearing the point that we have representatives who are on this committee who are not members of the full council. There has to be some mechanism of accountability that does not disadvantage them because of the nature of their positions being present here.
So PE is probably the answer.
Okay, we will talk about this, I think. Sorry, Representative Allen, I just want to say perhaps one of the ways we can deal with that PDX is that we will have to have it as a subsequent meeting, but I'm just foreshadowing that now so that we can, have that conversation in the preparation of the agenda for the next meeting. So, Representative Allen, it's still with you.
Thank you. I just want to say I think it's important. We've just voted on an item which people have stressed that the surplus goes towards the future maintenance of the asset, and it would be handy to know what's in that fund. And the secondary question to that is what percentage of this year's surplus will go into the future maintenance of the landfill? And I don't know if you can answer that now either.
Yeah, I want to clarify something here in terms of the surplus and the treatment of the surplus. The surplus is a reserve item on our balance sheet. It's not a cash sitting in somebody's bank account available for expenditure. So it currently is being used as, so it's an accounting treatment. It's not a cash item that sits on our accounts.
I appreciate that, but I'm failing to see how that is going to be in terms of the broader conversation that around the accountability of the funds that are held ring-fenced around this particular asset, cash or otherwise.
Yes, I'm just trying to clarify that. They're not ring-fenced around this particular asset.
They're not.
No, they're not. And they're declared in our annual report as a surplus, as a reserve. They're not ring-fenced because we are treating it as the cash flow is as we do across all other aspects of our council management of our income, and our treasury management is being done through our cash flow and debt and our debt book. So it contributes to reduction of debt, which benefits the ratepayer significantly.
So
Okay, Representative Allen, and then we'll come to Porirua Kelly.
So if I've heard that correctly, when we talk about the surplus of the landfill and the P&L report presented, it's not ring fence for the landfill, but we voted on the last item being that we're voting to increase prices of the landfill to assist with the future maintenance of the landfill. So what I'm hearing now is we could get to whether it's 2030, 2035 or 2050, and there may be no cash to maintain the landfill because it's been spent on something else. That's a distinct possibility. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not quite how I'd explain it. At the point at which the landfill closes, there is a provision that's required for the subsequent maintenance of that landfill for up to 30 years, and including the cost of capping and maintenance. The decision as to how we finance that at that point is entirely up to our financial policies and the council at the time.
Okay, I understand.
Anything else, Representative Allen?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Porirua Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a suggestion, the briefing that you're going to give to Porirua City Councillors, is that paper going to be available to us under public excluded and diligent? Because that at least is a way that we get to read about whatever you're discussing. I mean, even a link to be able to sit in on to be online. I don't know, that might be outside the...
I understand the sentiment of what you're trying to get to, and I think that there's a lot of truth in that. Can I ask for some guidance from officers as to how best that information can be communicated to all members of the committee in a way that allows them to be brought up to speed on this issue?
Mr. Chair, we'll give it some thought, but hear what your intent is. We'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, because the public excluded paper on diligent is safe, and I mean, and I'm happy. I don't have to have a briefing. I mean, as long as the report, the paper is you've expanded it enough to be able to understand the full picture.
I think we were on the same page with regards to the sentiments issues here. And I reiterate the point that no member of this committee should be disadvantaged in being able to participate in this business because of information that they don't have access to at the time of when decisions are being made. So I think that officers will go away. We'll seek their guidance to ensure that has been done as well.
Are we doing comment or still questions?
Questions? Do you have a question? So I'll come back to you.
Thanks. I just wanted to clarify what you were saying before, Jim. So can you just let me know if I've got this right? With regards to, so say if we take, for example, what you've estimated would be the surplus for the landfill this year, that would be going towards the aftercare provision. Thank you. So what you're saying is that surplus of, what is it, like 5 million or something like that, that's not, or whatever it is, that's not necessarily going there towards aftercare provision. It's going to go into where the rest of our debt is to offset all council debt, so that when down the track, when we actually do have, when the tip closes and we need to address it, will there be a meeting like, okay, it's going to cost this much, are we going to debt fund it Is that what you're saying?
So, okay. So maybe I'll try and keep this as simple as I can through the chair. The reason why we don't put it in a little deposit account is because the interest that you would raise on that deposit account would be substantially less than the interest cost that we would spend on the debt. Okay, so that's sort of the basic logic. And you're right, when we get to the point of understanding what is the life of the landfill and the provisions that are required, then at that point we will decide how that will be financed and funded, whether it will be through rates or whether it will be debt funded or whatever. And that's normal discussions that would be held with the council.
Okay, I don't see any more questions on this, but so I'm going to go to debate and comment. Porirua Kelly, and then anyone else who wants to jump in on that comment.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make the comment around the chicken and egg theory. So, and getting back to the consultant fees that we pay out, and the real frustration that there is around consultants being paid a high pūtea for the work that they do, and we seem to be able to have that pūtea readily available for them to do that mahi. But then when it comes to actually do the mahi, there isn't any pūtea to do it, or there has to be rate increases. So I'm just expressing my frustration with being told that there's 1.8 million that has been set aside, and where that money is going to be used is for design and investigation, rather than it being actually spent on and I'm using this example because it's the one that we've got here today, even though it's not the one that's before us. When we were talking about the Rukatani station and that upgrade and it being done. And I just wanted to leave that thought with you, and the chicken and hen theory is like, yeah, I know we need to do the investigation and we need to do the design work, but does it always have to be at such a huge cost? And then when it comes to actually doing the thing, to making a difference, to making something happen, there is no pūtea, or there's not enough, and the rate increase needs to go up. And I think that we have to be a bit more diligent about making our contractors accountable for whatever the quote they put in, or whatever is happening. But when we're doing the books, that we need to look at it, at making it match, not just that, yeah, there's this here for you to go and do all of this flash stuff and draw us some flash pictures, because half the time the designs and stuff that comes back, they don't actually even use it, and they'll go and get another iteration of it. So I am waffling because I am frustrated that it just doesn't seem to change, that big contract services and consultants get paid this big money when we're not able to actually address what needs to make a difference in our community. So thank you for your time.
Kia ora, Porirua. No, it says, any other comments on this one? Well, I'm going to take a comment from the chair, and then we're going to go to the vote. I think, this is precisely the kinds of issues that, people can get their eyes go all googly with regards to the accounting of it. There's some things that you just don't want to see made, laws, sausages, and perhaps this council's budgeting. But then I don't say that with any disrespect to the people who have to do the mahi day to day. I don't want to be seen as anything like that. In addition, I want to thank officers for bringing this forward to our attention. I think it is fair to register the public's concern with regards to how what it pays for is going to meet the reasonable expectations of this asset, which is the landfill in particular in this case, both now and in the future. Greater care will need to be taken in communicating that and maintaining our commitments to making sure that we fulfil the role of aftercare once that site is no longer operational. I say that as somebody who, like many of you here, have been down to Porirua Park from time to time to go and enjoy the rugby, as I like to do from time to time with the Norths. That used to be a landfill. And you could not put a rugby field on there without significant aftercare and additional development to develop that space. We need to maintain those commitments in this context, but more importantly, we need to be seen to be maintaining these commitments. So we'll put it to that, leave it at that. And finally, 7.4. I now put the motion, being that we received the report. The motion has been moved. It has been seconded. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. Abstentions? I believe the motion is carried. Now we can get to the karakia. I know, but summon your inner ihi as you get through this, and hopefully with some boisterousness you will warm up yourself up. And for everybody at home, I hope you are wrapped up warm. Toru whā, kia horo te mareno, kia whakapapapau namu te moana, he huarahi mā tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, hui e, tāe ki e. Thanks everybody, soupy twist.